Can anybody hear me?
Your good night's sleep.
Wait, what were you saying? Oh.
Yeah. This side, yes. Okay. Do the kids ever make their way and,
They
don't, they sleep really well.
Good morning. Before we begin, I believe we have a county commissioner on Zoom this morning. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes. Good morning, Kyle. Mr. Terpstra.
Hello.
If you could just identify where you're zooming in from.
Yep, Granville, Michigan. Can you hear me?
Kyle.
Yep, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Commissioner Terpstra.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, yep. it's down.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Sure.
I'm Granville, Michigan.
Thank you.
Madam
right.
Chair, before you start,
Yes, go ahead, Mr.
Um,
Jordan.
I'm not sure why Commissioner Terpstra is not here. But if it's not because he's sick or in military service or something of that nature, he can participate, but he cannot vote.
Thank you for that reminder. I also shared that with him this morning. Thank you.
I understand.
All right. Good morning. We're going to call the session of Talent and Recruitment Committee of August 15, 2023 to order. The first item on the agenda is our first set of public comment time. If you would like to make a comment, I just ask that you would please come on up to the podium, state your name, and you have up to 3 minutes to direct your comments to myself, Commissioner Miedema, as the chair of this committee. So welcome. Any public comments?
Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Brubaker, Holland Township. I usually don't come to committee meetings, but some of the things that have transpired over the last week have me feeling that I can't sit at home and be silent. Yesterday, I received the Ottawa County Digest, and I find it to be interesting because while it had such interesting things as August is National Shooting Month, it did not include the latest hire as the assistant to the administrator. Last week at the board meeting, there was discussion about that, and I would say a highly embarrassing discussion about that, where it was noted that someone was hired, but the name was not revealed. Again, for a group that likes to use the word transparency, we run into this a lot. When you don't provide transparency, we have to look for the facts ourselves. And the facts that come out are that Jordan Epperson doesn't meet the requirements, which is interesting because the requirements were created when the job was created, and that's with this group of commissioners. Once again, it's someone who's not an Ottawa County resident. And then we get into a little bit of Jordan's personality and the things that he's shared with the world publicly. I want to read one of his tweets. Import women from Eastern Europe to make fat American women jealous. Women will only better themselves because of jealousy. No other reason. And if you missed that one, you may have caught the one he sent out in August, the same month he was hired, as far as we know. He retweeted a demeaning post about a woman's outfit, using a word that I can't repeat here. As a female taxpayer who pays taxes into all of your salaries and the salaries of the administrator and this new administrative assistant, I'm outraged. And you'd think maybe it would stop there, but it doesn't. Jordan also had tweets and other social media posts that are anti-education, homophobic, and racist, and many using such vulgarities and slurs that I find aberrant to read, so I'm certainly not going to repeat them here. As a taxpayer, I strongly urge you to rescind the job offer made to the person that you made it to. I strongly urge you to use a transparent process. I strongly urge you to recognize that Ottawa County has a group of talented people and that it would be really wise to have a few people who would be in a position that would care about Ottawa County because they have that kind of skin in the game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
I'm Cindy Spielmaker. I live in Grand Haven. I'm here today to express my dismay about Mr. Gibbs' selection of Jordan Epperson for the senior executive aide position as well. To quote the job description, this position upgrades the role of executive assistant by combining it with the role of senior analyst to the administrator. The job requirements lay out a need for a master's degree in business administration and substantial work and board experience. The lengthy job description justifies the increase in salary and benefits. When you approved the increase of roughly $40,000 in annual salary and benefits, were you envisioning Mr. Gibbs hiring a 23-year-old recent college graduate who does not meet the job requirements? Were you hoping he would select someone who has social media posts insulting women, higher education, and those with developmental disabilities? It appears that there were other candidates that met all or a majority of the requirements for this position. Although Mr. Gibbs is the hiring manager, it's hard to imagine that this hire was not discussed with at least Mr. Moss. So why was Jordan Epperson selected? Is this a political appointment? If Mr. Gibbs so strongly feels that he needs a significant amount of help to do his job, and this position provides that for him, I urge you to work with him to hire a more appropriate candidate, or at least one who meets the job requirements. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon Obed, Spring Lake.
Morning.
I also am speaking today to the need to reconsider the hiring of Jordan Epperson to the position of Assistant to Administrator Gibbs. It's become clear Mr. Epperson does not have the minimum necessary qualifications for the job, which per an article I read written by MLive reporter Audra Gamble in the August 13 edition of the Muskegon Chronicle, requires a master's degree in business administration and experience in, quote, strategic management, innovation, and marketing branding, end quote. An additional requirement was at least 2 years of experience serving on a major public board. The record shows that the extent of Mr. Epperson's post-secondary education is a bachelor's degree. And since he only recently graduated from college, it's hard to believe any major public board would have sought him out to serve. Also, from what I've seen of the social media posts attributed to Mr. Epperson, I believe each of you as county commissioners should be concerned about his fittedness for this position. At minimum, the content and tone of the posts I've seen indicate that Mr. Epperson lacks the maturity and circumspection required for the position. Worse, in his use of broad stroke labeling language in his references to others who represent groups with which he does not personally identify, such as women, gays, Muslims, etc., he reveals a lack of the necessary ability to behave in a respectful manner toward all members of our community. Of even greater concern to me, however, is the extent to which some of his posts reveal contempt for due process and law and order. It's one thing for Mr. Gibbs to have made a passing remark at a previous meeting of this body stating his preference for political appointments over existing policies regarding county hires. But to my knowledge, to date, no official decision has been made to depart from the normal hiring process based on applicants' qualifications. So if the choice of Administrator Gibbs of Mr. Epperson for this role was, at least in his own mind, a political appointment, it prompts me to question what political goals Mr. Gibbs intends Mr. Epperson to achieve. From Mr. Epperson's social media posts, it becomes clear that already at his age, he's quite well connected with a particular political element beyond our county. And again, I can't help but wonder if those political ties were the real prize sought in hiring Mr. Epperson. How that goal meshes with any legitimate purpose for the benefit of Ottawa County, its administration, or its residents escapes me. So I do believe it's incumbent upon the board to review the circumstances related to the hiring process for this appointment, and I urge that it be rescinded. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Rebecca Patrick, Allendale Township. I'm sure no one's surprised that I'm here to ask you to intervene in the appointment of Mr. Gibbs' new executive assistant. And I'm sure you're aware of the concerns, but for the record, I'll briefly cover them. First, he does not appear to meet the selection criteria, the most obvious and important one being a master's degree, since it was listed first on the position specs Mr. Gibbs developed and the Board of Commissioners approved. I've hired a number of folks in government service in my time, and I'm aware that experience can sometimes be swapped for credentials if the preponderance of experience allows it. This isn't that situation. One only needs to look at the number of years this applicant has been out of high school to reach that conclusion. Second, he does not appear to have the temperament or discernment necessary to serve in such a high-profile position, as evidenced by his social media presence. The position description tells us that he will, in fact, be representing all of you to county employees, stakeholders, and stakeholder groups, and the community at large. His vulgar, demeaning, and quite frankly, very troubling social media posts render him unfit for this job. And lastly, I would ask you to look into your email inboxes. I'm confident there are many more Ottawa County residents who aren't able to be here this morning who expressed many of the same concerns I just expressed. So what am I asking? I'm asking you to consider what is best for Ottawa County, for your current employees, for the county stakeholders and partners, for the residents, for yourselves, and for the candidate himself, and take up this matter in this committee and ultimately recommend to Mr. Gibbs that he vacate this appointment. Thank you.
Thank you. there any others for public comment today?
Good morning, Dan Zimmer, Port Sheldon Township, Chairperson and members of the room. I request that this public comment segue into robust inquiry, conversation, and analysis. It has been self-proclaimed that this board gets more involved, scrutinizes, and exercises due diligence than previous boards. Your innate claim to your fame. This instance is on your wall of shame. Mr. Gibbs refused to disclose the name of his new hire assistant starting August 21 for reason of creating public spectacle. Why would someone be so concerned to utter someone's name? All of you board members have received an email with some disturbing comments from said new hire. Emails received for certain as I sent it on 8/10/2023 at 2:40 a.m. New hires resume reads journalist, digital media specialist, 2020 through 2023 with big league politics. Wrote various news articles and opinion pieces on politics and culture from a right-wing perspective. This resume lacks life experience to know that there are times it is better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. Copies of posts were disgusting. New hire lacks good judgment as well as those that hired them.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Hello, Teresa White, Robinson Township. I, for one, am excited to see Jordan come here to be an assistant to Administrator Gibbs. And if Administrator Gibbs wants him as his assistant, then he should be pleased to serve here. I like that he's younger and just like to see the change going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
David Moore in Allendale Township. I can't help but think it'll be a great improvement to have somebody serve that wants to serve and is willing to serve under the people they're supposed to serve for or with, versus somebody who's not happy, doesn't want to be here, and left. The American way. If you have a job and you're not happy with it, you can leave anytime you want. And I applaud that opportunity. Listening to some of the comments, I kind of guess I have to agree with them to a point. I too would like all appointees to be perfect. Without sin, without any wrongdoing, without a past, without a sex. And then nobody could have anything to complain about, right? But for every 10 people, there's 10 opinions. The bottom line is Mr. Gibbs is the administrator. Mr. Gibbs has chosen this individual to be his man or woman, I don't care. But it's his decision, and I applaud that. It's always better to have somebody along your side that you can trust than somebody you know has a knife and they're willing to stab it in your back. To the employees of Ottawa County, I would just say this: if you're not happy, the door only swings one way. It only locks one way. You can leave anytime. There are people that are willing to serve. I appreciate everything you do. I'm sorry for the persecution. I'm sorry for the fact that most of these people that persecute this new gentleman have probably never met him, have probably never shook his hand or had any conversations with him, but are willing to do what they just did. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
I wasn't going to speak. My name is Dave Barnowski. I'm in Port Sheldon Township. We don't want perfect, we want qualified. We don't want people to be excited that somebody's here. We want someone who's going to be able to do the job. First-rate talent hires first-rate talent. Second-rate talent hires hacks.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Don Dykstra, Georgetown Township. I applaud what Mr. Gibbs did. And I've worked with, some lady mentioned about master's degree. I worked with some people, master's degree. I would have worked with someone that was from high school. They think they have all the knowledge, but they don't. I think he made the right decision. I think you people are making the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Right, seeing none, next is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Support.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Madam Chair,
Aye.
before we go to a vote, we just have a discussion on the agenda, please.
Yes, Commissioner
Yeah,
Zelstra.
So, I think there's been a lot of discussion today.
Excuse
Do you
me.
have, Commissioner Zelstra, before you discuss, do you have a motion you'd
Do you
like
have
to
a
make to
motion?
add to
Would
the
you like me to
agenda?
make the motion first?
Yes, I would.
Sure. I move to add to the agenda, closed session discussion to review the reported recent hire, the senior executive aide to the administrator's office.
Is there a second to that? Okay, seeing none, motion dies. So we're back to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, and second has been made. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Okay, agenda is approved. We have one consent resolution to approve the minutes from the June 2023 Talent and Recruitment Committee meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. All right, motion passes. So we have one action item today to place into nomination and forward to the Board of Commissioners the names of Brooke Carl and Angie Barksdale, and to select one to fill one Community Corrections Advisory Board Workforce Investment Seat vacancy beginning January 1, 2023 and ending December 31, 2024. First, can we get a motion on this?
I'll make that motion.
All right.
I'll second.
All right, motioned by Moss and seconded by Commissioner Cosby. The interview subcommittee is recommending Brooke Carl. We will need to take a roll call vote on this, and we should state one name from this list. Are we ready to take a roll call vote on this?
No, just.
Go ahead.
Sure. And if we could take just a moment to discuss the actual vacancy itself, the workforce investment vacancy and what that actually means and what kind of parameters that prescribes for a potential applicant.
We could discuss the applicant itself that we have on the agenda right now. Commissioner Zylstra, we'd be happy to share about the candidate that we're recommending to
Well,
the board
like I
at
said,
this
I mean, I
time.
would prefer that we take a step back and just, I mean, we are selecting one person for this workforce investment seat vacancy. So I think it kind of behooves us to take a step back and see what that workforce investment seat vacancy prescribes, right?
I think some of the things by sharing, some of the qualifications that we're recommending will come up naturally by sharing about the qualifications. So
Okay.
Commissioner Cosme, did you have some things you'd like to share?
I participated in the interviews. So, after conducting the last 8 months, probably over 50 interviews for boards and committees, volunteer boards and committees in Ottawa County, I really do stand in awe of the incredible talent that thrives in West Michigan. Oh, sorry. I'm not close enough. So the incredible talent that thrives here in West Michigan. The commitment and dedication of our community members towards service are genuinely commendable. Amid the talent pool, one candidate in particular has shown brightly, and that's Brooke Carl. It brings me immense pride to introduce Brooke Carl for this position on Ottawa County Community Corrections Advisory Board. Our community is indeed fortunate to have an individual of Brooke's caliber, with her keen dedication and expertise stepping forward to offer her invaluable contributions. Currently holding the position of Director of Finance and HR at R.A. Miller, Brooke's responsibilities encompass an array of critical areas, including the establishment of workforce hiring practices, standards, and requirements. A testament to her commitment, Brooke and her team have successfully integrated 12 individuals who transitioned from incarceration and helping them into a productive and high-functioning community members once again. Furthermore, her dedication extends beyond her professional role. Brooke is involved as a volunteer, devoted volunteer for Love in Action, a laudable not-for-profit ministry that aids in providing recovery housing and transition planning for individuals re-entering society from a correction system. In both her professional and volunteer capacities, Brooke has actively forged partnerships with other not-for-profits across our county and neighboring counties, in fact, focusing on the noble goals of recovering and reintegrating and the prevention of recidivism. I am pleased to bring Brooke Carl forward. I think the county will be blessed by her presence.
And going on that, just to remind everybody what the Community Corrections Advisory Board is and why, particularly some of Commissioner Cosby's comments of why we're recommending Brooke, is stated even on the website here. The Ottawa County Community Corrections Advisory Board acts in an advisory capacity to the Ottawa County Director of Community Corrections, approves applications for grant funding, and monitors programs geared to reduce local prison commitment rates in accordance to Public Act 511 of 1988. And then it goes on to include how many members are on it. And so I concur with Commissioner Cosby. I believe Brooke will be an amazing asset, particularly in that field of monitoring programs geared to reduce local prison commitment rates with the work that she's done extensively. So are there any other comments before we go to a vote? Yes, Commissioner Zalestra.
Yeah, so just going back to the actual vacancy itself, I mean, my understanding, and maybe Jack, has a different thought on this, is that the vacancy is to be filled with a member who is affiliated with the applicable Workforce Investment Board. And I'm not saying that, Ms. Carl doesn't have qualifications, because it sounds like, she does have a lot of qualifications. But as far as what, state law prescribes, it says the member must be affiliated with the applicable Workforce Investment Board. My understanding is that West Michigan Works is the federally recognized Workforce Investment Board under the Workforce Investment and Opportunity Act. So they would be the only organization who could provide us a candidate for that spot. Not saying that Angie Barksdale has to be that candidate, but my understanding, and Jack, you're welcome to kind of, tell me if I got this right or wrong, but we could only pull somebody from that group.
Alma Valenzuela, who's the contact person for this board, has gone through all the qualifications that were needed for this appointment.
Okay.
And she has passed those.
Okay. I'm just reading, state law. So
Yep. And Alma's designation as this person as contact, they have to go through some screening before it even gets to me to be able to look at the applicants. And she passed through that screening process.
Okay. Again, not doubting, Ms. Venezuela's, reading of that, but at the same time,
I called a question.
So question has been called. So are we ready to take a roll call vote?
I think you need to vote on the question first.
I have one other comment. It sounds to me like Commissioner Zylstra is preparing a tweet where he's going to say that the actions of this committee are potentially illegal. So I'll be looking for that tweet in about 35 minutes. That's it.
Madam Chair, I'm not sure. Kyle has his hand raised, but I'm not sure.
He can have discussion, just can't vote on a matter. So Commissioner Terpstra?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to say, after looking through those resumes, I think Brooke's highly qualified, and I trust your guys' nomination for that. And I also just wanted to thank the people that did apply for it, and just thank you for the willingness to serve on a board.
Thank you. Corporate Counsel Jordan, is there any statement you felt that we should be knowledgeable of? If not, then we'll carry on.
Not at this time, but there was a call for the question that needs to be seconded.
Correct. So the question has been called. And so, Madam Clerk, will you call at the moment, just the motion? The motion has been stated. I'll reread it a minute. Placing into nomination and forwarding to the Board of Commissioners.
Vote on the call to the.
Oh, sorry. Voting on the call to question. So
Seconded. Ms. Cosby,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
No.
Mr. Moss,
Yes.
Mrs. Ebel. Yes. Mr. Belknap,
Yes.
Mrs. Medema,
yes.
motion passes.
So we are back to the motion. And the motion was to place into nomination and forward to the Board of Commissioners the names of Brooke Colorado and Angie Barksdale, and just select one to fill one Community Corrections Advisory Board Workforce Investment seat vacancy beginning January 1, 2023 and ending December 31, 2024. We will be taking a roll call vote, and each commissioner should state one person's name they would like to forward on to the full Board of Commissioners for the recommendation.
Mr. Belknap,
Brooke Carl.
Ms. Cosby, Brooke Carl, Mr. Zylstra,
Angie Barksdale.
Mr. Moss,
Brooke Carl.
Mrs. Ebel, Brooke Carl, Mrs. Medema,
Brooke Carl.
with 5 votes, it's Brooke Carl.
Okay. So we will recommend Brooke Carl to the Board of Commissioners. So that ends the action items. There are no committee reports today, so we're up to our second opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment?
Morning again, Commissioners. Rebecca Patrick, Allendale Township. I have to say, I wasn't surprised, and probably nobody sitting here is surprised that you declined to discuss this appointment of Mr. Epperson in committee. But it's really quite, I guess, amazing is the word I would use, because it would be interesting to know how many folks you heard from via email on this issue. Because yeah, there's a handful of us all sitting here this morning on one side or the other, but we aren't the only ones that have weighed in on this. And so to pretend that it's not an issue is a little disingenuous, I would say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Before we end, I would just like to make a comment as chair that I took the time to go back through meeting minutes of talent and recruitment since 2019. This committee has served the function of making recommendations to the full Board of County Commissioners for a variety of boards and committee seats. From all the meeting minutes I looked back on, this committee has never been used in routine hiring decisions in those 4 years, nor has it been used for discussing a county hire. This particular position is a county hire. Respectfully, those are the reasons I was not discussing it further in our Talent and Recruitment Committee today. We are at the end of our meeting and we are adjourned.